Alright, so this is going to be an unboxing of the third box of mystery discs that Melinda McClure very graciously sent over. Some interesting titles in here, and I'm going to start off with the animated ones. This is the Universal CLV version of this, and all the transfers on laser were 133, even though it would have, of course, been widescreen theatrically. This is the really nice looking Universal release of The Land Before Time, the Don Bluth picture, that of course spawned many sequels and most kids rewatched endlessly on home video. Has a digital PCM track, Dolby Surround encoded, and again there is a CAV version with a different cover, but of course this uses the poster art very nicely, and I did spot check this, and it's a pretty nice transfer for the age, but of course being a Universal disc, they didn't really give it any fancy packaging, and they have their usual colored bar across the top. And then the rear is typical Universal blandness, even though again this is a pretty good transfer, and it is, you know, I think this disc is from late '89, early 1990, and Universal was still doing these kind of generic jackets, but again does have digital PCM, so, and a pretty nice transfer, so very highly recommended. Of course, just keep in mind it's still in the 1:3:3 aspect ratio as opposed to the I believe this probably would have been 1:8:5 theatrically. And interestingly enough, it seems like all the sequels made it to Laserdisc, even the later direct-to-video sequels. So I think there's 5 or 6 at least, and some of those came out as late-era Laserdisc releases. So really nice transfer of a, you know, pretty well-beloved animated title. Next up, this is another one of the Warner Brothers Looney Tunes single disc compilations. Pretty much all of these are in the various Golden Age of Looney Tunes box sets, but it's interesting to see some of these single reissues, which came before, during, and after the Golden Age boxes, but they all have a really great compilation style, great titles, and great custom artwork. So here is the Bugs disc of 14 Bugs shorts, Winner by a Hair, and it's really cute because it has basically Bugs in his own version of the Oscar, which is just, again, really great art, pretty much exclusive to this particular release, and I really love all of these individual releases, so it's really cool to actually have another one actually in your hand. Again, pretty nice custom artwork on the back, and I believe this was also before they started with the Golden Age box sets. Again, they were really kind of doing these single discs first, and then the Golden Age boxes were intended for the animation collector, and so they kept doing the standalone discs as sort of a catch-all grab for the family entertainment market division of their Laserdiscs, and just for more general fans. So this will compile 14 shorts, so you don't have to just go flipping through side after side on the various Golden Age boxes to get these particular shorts. Again, really nice transfers on these, pretty much the same thing you get in the Golden Age boxes, but it's nice to have these special single disc versions. Next up are 2 Hong Kong titles that are both sequels, so I will have to see the originals first, but these are pretty cool looking Tai Sing editions that were, I believe these were all released over here as well, so they made like foreign and English friendly versions that they could sell in both territories. So this is the letterbox edition of Tai Chi 2. So again, I have not seen the original of either of these, so I will have to check those out before I check out these pretty awesome looking discs. Really nice cover artwork, and again this is really helpful for me to expand my Hong Kong action horizons. And again, this is a Tai Sing disc where they made it English friendly on this particular jacket, and I guess they were kind of revving up more at the American sales, because I believe this was just sold straight as a regular US disc. PCM Cantonese on the digital track, and then there's an English dub on the analog track, so again you get the best of both worlds, and it is English subtitled, so pretty much very easy to just pop in your player and enjoy without having to worry about you know, getting the closed caption for English subtitles or not having English subs, and you get the original Cantonese dialogue as well. So pretty nice looking disc, no extras or anything, but was pretty cool to actually see some of these films getting legit US releases. And then following that up with another sequel to a film I have not yet seen, also from Tai Sing. This is Bride with the White Hair 2. Again, really nice looking artwork, very, very striking, also letterboxed, also Cantonese on the digital tracks, English dub on the analog tracks, and English subtitles. So again, English friendly, but without losing the original dialogue. Also a Tai Sing disc, also sold in the US. And again, a pretty nice rear cover that actually spells everything out pretty easily. It's very readable and lets you know again that it's letterboxed. It's got Cantonese and English dub, and it's got subtitles. So I think they were really at this point starting to really cultivate their US collector market and really direct market these discs to Laserdisc specialty stores and the like. So really cool and really excited to dig into this. Of course, I'll need to see the first movie first. Now here's one, I don't know if I've ever seen this all the way through, but I've seen it on cable so many times and just over the years, bits and pieces, that I've basically seen the whole thing. But this is a Paramount disc of a 1989 film, and this is actually an open matted release. There is no widescreen version that I know of, but this is the Paramount release of Major League, which has the original artwork and uses the whole jacket, so it's really cool. But it does have the old-fashioned laser video disc stereo banner across the corner here, which would make you think it was a much older disc, say from the early 80s. But if you notice here, it does have digital sound. It is a Dolby Surround encoded disc, so even though it's not widescreen, it's still a pretty solid Laserdisc and definitely the best version out there because they never reissued it that I know of. Standard Paramount rear, nice images. Overall, it's a nice, solid, standard Paramount release, and it's pretty cool that they added digital sound because by this point in time, Paramount was still pretty stingy with that. So you would still get pan and scan and open matted discs like this that were analog sound only. So at least you get that benefit. And if you're wanting to see this film on Laserdisc, you can pick this up seemingly for pretty cheap. Seems like a pretty common title, but I'm excited to finally spin this up and watch it all the way through without commercials and stuff. Next up, from 1992, this is another film I've never seen, so this will be interesting. This is the film Desperate Motive. Pretty nice looking jacket. This disc is a image release, but it's pretty striking looking artwork, and they used the whole jacket pretty well. So this will be a complete first watch going in blind for me. So it's always interesting to see a film for the first time on Laserdisc. So apparently this was originally a release from New Line, and it is surround encoded on the digital track, but as you can see down here at the very, very bottom, it's credited as an Ultra Stereo release, which is the low-budget version of Dolby Stereo for lower-budgeted films or indie films that didn't want to pay for the Dolby license. So it works just the same. So this is actually matrix encoded, but this will be a first time for me. So should be interesting. Next up, from 94, is a standard Universal disc of a movie I have not seen in years. And this is one of those where it was a 90s soundtrack that seemed to be everywhere. This is the Universal letterbox release of Reality Bites. And pretty much the standard Universal jacket with the starry background, but it looks pretty good with this poster image and then the blue letterboxing bars. Dolby Surround encoded digital track, no AC3 because I don't know if this film actually had AC3 theatrically. But again, it's pretty much well known for the soundtrack of music selections from the film. That was a CD that they sold bukus of back in the day. So I know I've seen this like probably a million times, but it's been years. And usually it was just, it seemed like it was always on TV for a while, especially on cable and stuff. But just a standard Universal disc with, again, PCM, Dolby Surround. And yeah, it'll be fun to rewatch this. Like I said, I haven't seen it in probably at least 10 years or so. So next up is the, let's see, who did this one? I think it's, okay, it's a Polygram Video. Yes, I guess it is just Polygram. It's the letterbox release of the early Danny Boyle picture, Shallow Grave, with this really awesome looking cover art. I think all the later versions, they have some interesting art, but I think this one just really sells it pretty well, and I think this is the original poster art too. And of course you get this bar across the top advertising it as a deluxe widescreen version, because widescreen, it should be deluxe, you should pay more for it. You wouldn't want to see a movie in its original aspect ratio, would you? I like the rear cover here with the just solitary shovel in the ground. So really, really nice art. Simple disc, movie only, no extras, just a single CLV 2-side transfer. It does have the Dolby Surround encoded digital track, and this being a lower budgeted film from '94, I don't think it would have had AC3 on its original release, so it should be original audio as well. And I haven't seen this in a good number of years, so it'll be fun to revisit and check out this Laserdisc transfer. And Polygram did press a number of things, and then of course eventually other people would just press everybody's stuff. Like Image picked up a ton of people's output, but yeah, Polygram discs seem to be pretty decent, so I'm sure the transfer would be pretty good. Next up is another one of these. It is a Disney disc, but they really go out of their way to not really advertise it. This is for the film Tall Tale, which I don't know. I have some vague memories of this, but I don't know if I ever saw it. Again, this is one of Disney's live-action 90s films that really just kind of came and went in terms of theatrical release. I think it was really aired a lot more people saw it on video. But it is a letterbox title. It does have a Dolby Surround encoded digital track, and should be interesting to watch this. The director of this later went on to make the very much critically hated, but a film that I saw at a young age, the remake of The Avengers from '98, which of course got recut by the studio pretty hastily and kind of chopped up all over the place, so it makes no sense. But I don't really think he's done a whole lot after that, but I just recognized the name, so I was like, hey, this is the dude who made the Avengers movie. So just a standard Disney disc with the standard Disney layout on the rear cover in terms of text and stuff. But it looks like this should be a pretty nice transfer. And again, it's a film I've never really seen, but for some reason I have vague memories of it. So maybe I saw part of it once. Now here's another one that I have not seen in a very long time, and from what I remember, it's pretty good. I think it's one of the more underrated 90s action thrillers, but this is the Fox letterbox release of Chain Reaction. As you can see, it has the Dolby Digital sticker indicating an AC3 track. And again, being a '96 film, this should be a really nice looking Laserdisc. This was also an early DVD and a very early Blu-ray. I think the last time I watched it, I did pick up the Blu-ray from Fox, and it had a pretty decent, if a bit outdated, transfer. So I'm interested to rewatch it after all these years and check out this Laserdisc version and the AC3 track. Now, as the front very clearly advertises, this was directed by Andrew Davis post The Fugitive, and I think he did a phenomenal job at cranking out these action thrillers. He made the best of the Steven Seagal films, then went on to The Fugitive, and then made this. And I'm excited to rewatch this because I remember from what I remember, it was pretty good and like a cut above the standard 90s action thriller. I don't think this really has any special features outside of the fact that it's widescreen with AC3. Of course, it also has a Dolby Surround PCM track as well, which I'll do some spot comparisons when I fire this up. But being a Fox disc, you do get a nice amount of liner notes here on the rear cover. And I guess they did that because it's not a gatefold, it's just a single disc. But a bit nicer jacket than most, and I'll be excited to check out the transfer on this and compare it to the early Blu-ray, which I think the Blu-ray for this was like a 2007 or 2008 disc. It was like super early, so that should be fun. And then last but not least, this is another 90s action thriller that's kind of not talked about very much, and I've never actually seen it in its entirety. I always see pieces of it. Because it still seems to play on random cable and TV airings all the time. And there is a signature collection and a DTS version of this, but this is just the standard Universal release of the 96 Stallone Actioner Daylight. Really nice artwork on here. It doesn't really jump out at you at first, but when you actually sit and look at the jacket for a minute, it's a really nice striking image with really bold color, and they very nicely used the widescreen banner and kept it orange to fit in. The Signature Collection version uses a smaller version of this art, so it's a lot more striking to have the full jacket. Of course, there is a DTS version as well that's going to be super expensive and rare, so I'm happy to check out this disc, which actually is one of the few Universal discs that has AC3 on the standard release. Universal was famously tied to DTS and Spielberg on Jurassic Park, and they kept all of their discs around free, just having PCM Matrix ProLogic surround tracks up until they started pressing DTS discs in '97. And this being a '96 film, apparently they worked out the various contracts and things, and they started doing AC3 on regular Laserdiscs, which was quite surprising for Universal because they were so anti-AC3 for a long time. So this disc, in addition to the ProLogic Matrix track, has a AC3 track, so you get the Dolby Digital moniker down here. Outside of that, you'd have to pick up the various DVDs, the Blu-ray, or the signature set for all the extras. But this does have a THX mastering stamp, so it should be a really nice transfer. And it'll be really cool to check this out and check out the AC3 track. So again, cool that Universal finally started putting AC3 on their standard releases, because there's so many that just don't have surround. Like, you want to fire up Casino and you can't afford the DTS rare version, and you just got to live with the ProLogic Matrix, which is pretty darn good. That's still a great Laserdisc, but you just wish it had AC3. So they finally worked out their I guess their payment plan for the licensing to finally get AC3 on disc. Well, that will do it for this mystery box of titles. Thanks again so much to Melinda McClure for sending just a fun bunch of discs for me to go through. Because if I didn't have enough Laserdiscs already to just watch through and enjoy the mad fun of analog video, then I'm always happy to go through a few new ones and rediscover old favorites or discover new favorites. So thanks once again, and thanks everybody for watching.